and this is a thing, that I was just thinking about today. You know, when you look at what's happened to our culture now, I part of that, when I look back on that period, one of the things that I used to write about regularly, in order to be annoying as much as anything else, I have to confess, was a famous speech. I don't know, you're young lads now, relative to myself, but there was a famous speech which was made by Éamon de Valera as Taoiseach in 1943, and it became known as, he called it that Ireland which we dreamed of, right? Now, it was about the Irish language, but the core of the speech that was remembered was a very evocative description of what he considered to be the ideal Ireland. And I'll read it out for you now, because I have a book here nearby me, because I was thinking of just mentioning this. And that Ireland which we dreamed of. Now, this has been the most caricatured speech in Irish history, because you will have heard of it as the comely maidens dancing at the crossroads speech. Did you ever hear that, lads?
We did. I've heard the reference to dancing at the crossroads, yeah.
Yeah, well, now this speech did not contain the word comely. It did not contain any reference to dancing, and it contained no mention of crossroads. But that was added later in the kind of, you see, that was kind of a psyop all of its own back then, starting very soon afterwards, or certainly as we came into the 60s, where the urge was to purge de Valera's vision of Ireland. And I'll read the thing on you. You'll be staggered when you hear the key paragraph, because I was for years talking about this. And just think about this and what we've been talking about the last 5 minutes now. I'll read you out what de Valera says, and we can come back to what we were talking about there, about the 13 nurses, and the dildo with competitions and all the rest of it that we've now got, right? But
I'd rather talk about the market.
Okay, well, okay. This is what he said. This is what he says now. Just tell me what your objections are to this. That Ireland which we dreamed of would be the home of a people who valued material wealth only as the basis of right living, of a people who were satisfied with frugal comfort and devoted their leisure to the things of the spirit, a land whose countryside would be bright with cosy homesteads, whose fields and villages would be joyous with the sounds of industry, with the romping of sturdy children, the contest of athletic youths, and the laughter of happy maidens, whose firesides would be forums for the wisdom of serene old age. It would, in a word, be the home of a people living the life that God desires that man should live. Isn't that a shocking thing for a Prime Minister, a Taoiseach, to say, isn't it? To taunt these people in that way with such an image of a country, huh?
They talk about they talk about de Valera as being this conservative, hyper conservative, Dev's Ireland, where all the women were held in chains. Far from it. I have a book there about the origins of the modern constitution, the 1937 one. I can't remember the name of the guy. I should have had it here beside me. But it basically gives all of the letter correspondence between Dev and everybody about what to put into the Constitution.
Yes,
heavily inspired by
Gerard Hogan.
That's the one.
Mr. Justice George, who incidentally, lads, I want to tell you something, but don't lose your thought there, Stephen.
Yeah.
But I just want to put this in. Mr. Justice Gerard Hogan was the only one out of 13 judges when myself and Gemma O'Doherty took our case against Lockdown who found in our favour.
Now.
Yeah, I read the ruling, yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
We'll get to that ruling in the end, I suppose. That's a huge tangent. But in the book, you can actually see de Valera wrestling with the church, saying you're too heavy-handed here. That is not the way. Women are not going to be that way anymore. We're going to respect them. People have actually never read what Dev said, and I think a lot of what de Valera's of people's image of de Valera or idea of de Valera is solely based on the film Michael Collins. The whole image of De Valera is built out of that film. And that's where visual media is powerful. They portrayed Dev as an absolute spastic. And
yes, exactly right. And who did that?
French.
Who did that?
Neil Jordan.
Neil Jordan. You know, a total travesty. You know, exactly. And that's the kind of person who has created the culture that we're now walking through, which is peopled by, the twerking assholes. That's what we have as a result of all of that culture, by these so-called liberals who have poisoned the minds of our children, poisoned the groundwater of our country, and poisoned the future, and ensured that in the future, unless there will be no Ireland, unless something miraculous happens.
Well, De Valera is much maligned, but he gave one of the greatest speeches of the 20th century. That retort, Winston Churchill, was incredible. Have you ever heard that one?
Oh yes, I have. Yeah, I have indeed. Yeah,
that's a spectacular speech. He absolutely, whatever people may say about him, I thought Collins was a great man as well, but obviously things happened in the Civil War that, I'm sure none of them, if any one of us was put in that position, we wouldn't want to have to deal with any of them.
Yes, well, you see, I grew up in a house which was not a Dev house. It was a Collins house. My father and mother were both Collins people. And my father, emphatically so, right? And he regarded De Valera as the devil, but not for the reasons that you've mentioned there, like just because in his view, De Valera was the cause of the Civil War, which he said was unnecessary. And that this was the standard view. And I can't argue with it, nor can I say that it's true. But the view was on that side, the Common na Gael side, was that if they had left it alone, Ireland would have been reunited within a few years. Now, I don't know. There isn't anything that you can say from what we've seen in the last 50 years that would support that much. But nevertheless, the Civil War was a terrible, terrible event, and they blamed De Valera for it. And now, however, my father then would, in the midst of that, would pause and say, but the 1937 Constitution was a supreme piece of work.
100%.
The greatest thing that De Valera ever did. He said that there's no question about it.
He deserves enormous credit for it.
Yeah.
What happened there? Like, you could say that he walked out of the house when the Free State went to a vote, and he didn't